we go. Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
Whoops.
What did you whoops, John? Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. This is Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right over there is
Right here.
John, your resident millennial, with an opening whoops. What'd
Yep.
you do, John?
I fucked up the link.
Oh,
When I
no.
was sending it out to let everyone know that we're going live. Because you had be fucking with me in DM, so I had a separate thing in my clipboard. The definition of big, because I called you big gay. You remember that conversation we had?
Right, and I don't understand how you want to sit here and SJW blame me for it.
It was completely your fault.
I'm sorry. Your victim mentality is not accepted here, John. Have a good day. Folks, how are y'all doing tonight? Welcome to the show. We are here. We are beer. John, you've got beer, right?
I do have
You're
beer,
good?
yes.
Okay, so
indeed.
John's going to be fueled up. We've got everything we need there. RRC in the house. Good evening, sir.
Nice.
Nice to see
What's
you.
up, dude?
Hey, John, is anything going to happen to folks if they don't hit the like button tonight? Is there any
well,
bad
what-
things queued up?
I mean, it won't happen to them, but it will happen because of them. If you don't hit like and or subscribe, then God will kill a puppy. And we don't want that, do we?
No.
Guys,
no,
come on.
should be
you don't want
no-
puppies to die.
No killing of puppies.
That's right.
No killing of puppies. But yeah, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure that your notifications are turned on. We're blasting this thing out there. So get ready for some wonderful stuff tonight. It's been a very interesting week, John. A lot of things going on. But before we get into that, how have things been on for you this week? Just same old, same old. Your beard looks long.
Yes, my beard has survived still, which is good. Survived since last week when we did our charity stream. So, yeah, it's good to still have it, but a part of me wishes that it had been gone because that means that we would have raised, our goal amount. But either way, I'm still very proud of how much we did raise.
Now I am going to put it out there that had we
I disavow RRC. He said if you hit the like button, then God will kill a Democrat.
If he was going to do it, he would have done it by now. I mean, if there was a God, he would have taken care of things by now. There might have been just one massive lightning strike in Washington, just wipe the whole thing out. I mean,
Oh no! We have to get Steven out first.
I mean, if nothing else, I believe Washington is good proof that God doesn't exist. Because one would think he would have Sodom and Gomorrah that thing long ago,
Yeah,
right?
fair enough. Glad he started taking a more hands-off approach after he had the kid, though.
Yeah, something
he
about
had the
that.
kid, and he just settled down after that.
Right. It's like
I don't
he
know.
just turned off the TV and went on vacation. Like completely on vacation. Every once in a while, like he'll show up in some toast or a screen door. But
Right.
outside of that, I mean, he's really not there, right? I mean, now,
No, he's too busy giving kids in Africa AIDS. So
is that what it is?
Yeah.
I do have it on good authority that we have at least one person on our Discord server that is in direct communication.
oh really?
I'm just saying, or it seems to be. It would seem that he is, and the allegation has been made that that the Almighty has talked to him before. But
Okay, fair
I believe we have to take that in a loosely defined "talked to me" way. You know that Bible speak.
Yes.
The
yeah.
Lord talks to me every day when the sun comes up.
Oh yeah.
Hey, John, there's been a little bit of wacky, a little bit of non-wacky. The impeachment thing's going on. That's been going on, right? Two things have happened. So it's passed the House, right? They've got the House vote. 2 articles of impeachment have been passed. They're going to be putting them forward to the Senate. Great. What else happened with that? Oh, they released all of the Midget B in the House. Midget B in the House, what's up? They have released all of the information, all the documentation surrounding the money to the Ukraine. Some of the most heavily redacted shit I've ever seen in my life. I mean, like the bulk of this stuff is redacted. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm surprised there's even people's names showing.
Yeah.
RC's at work may not chat much, but that's okay.
Oh well,
As
no, I
long as you're
appreciate you
there,
just stopping by,
the
man. Yeah,
support,
definitely.
right? The moral
Yeah,
support.
absolutely.
As long as we're in your ear, so we can tickle you nice and soft. That's what really matters. Uh,
So
but
we're just gonna whisper sweet nothings into your ear all night long.
oh, RRC. But anyways, but I thought that was kind of funny. They sent that stuff out after the fact. Like they really they just fucked with them, pushed the envelope. They're like, yeah, well, here you go. Here's this. Here's some black marker for you to play with. You know, it's really what it is.
Just gave it to the 2-year-old and just started scribbling all over the pages. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, John. That shit's so heavily redacted. I don't even know if the Ukraine's involved. You
Not
know?
even mentioned.
Right? I don't even know that they're in there. But
RRC says a simple reach around will suffice. Well, we aim to please here at the generational gap. So.
RRC, I'll have you know there is nothing simple about my reach arounds.
Very nice.
Deeply complex. But you know what? RRC did mention the Democrats. I got to put this out there. There's supposed to be a debate coming up, John, here in just a very short time. Thursday, this coming Thursday.
Of course, it's on fucking Thursday when I can't watch it naturally.
So
I mean, maybe I will. Maybe I'll just stay up all night and go to work at 1
well,
a.m.
it's not like you can't listen to it like on YouTube while you're at work, you know, that kind of thing. You
I
don't
don't know.
need to see
I
it.
tried with the last one, but they kept taking it down.
Well,
So,
you know, two things about the debate, and this will help so you don't have to worry about like actually needing to see it. Cory Booker did not make it. He's not going to make it in the next debate. He didn't even beat out like Yang. You would think, one would have thought that he would have beat out Mr. 3-Minute Mile. And, you know, but no, he didn't. So Booker is out. So you don't have any bug eyes to watch for, any crazy facial antics, you know, that kind of thing. Bernie, I mean, there's Bernie, but still.
Or badly pronounced Spanish.
Right, but you can hear that, right?
Right.
So that happened. But here's the thing. It's scheduled to be held at the Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles. However, the Food Workers Union has been working with them because the workers there aren't unionized, and they're having a problem. They want to be unionized. They're having labor disputes, I guess. And the Unite Here Local 11 is planning on picketing the debate, and all 7 Democratic candidates came out immediately and said, "We will not cross that picket line." So they've effectively said, we will boycott the debate. We won't attempt to come to the debate as long as the strike is going on because, of course, Democrats support unions, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And the workers. So that is their stand on the upcoming debate. So
who all is doing it? All the Democratic
all
candidates?
7. There are 7 candidates that are going to be in the Thursday debate, and all 7 of them came out and said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, all 7 of them came out and said they will not cross the picket line.
If I was Yang, I would take that opportunity to be the only one on the stage.
He put it out. One would think the same thing.
Here's my shit. Here's my shit. I got all 2 hours, bitch. What?
Right?
Yeah, man. That's what I would do.
Nothing threatens Donald Trump more than an Asian scab.
Wow.
But the DNC and the communications director, which is Xochitl, Xochitl. How do you pronounce that?
You sure do, don't you?
Right? Hinojosa issued a statement today saying that the party organization don't expect the candidates would cross the picket line, and they are working with all stakeholders to find an acceptable resolution that meets their needs and is consistent with our values and will enable us to proceed as scheduled with next week's debate. It's a long way to go to saying we're trying to get this shit worked out.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, and RRC agrees. That would have been a supreme move with Yang. He would have got all two
Oh,
hours of talk time.
that's Jake who said that. Yeah,
Oh, Jake, I'm sorry. I apologize,
Jake.
Jake. I don't know why it
Uh,
was. It's they're both in
they're
black and
they're
white.
both black and white. Yeah.
I glanced over and glanced away. My apologies. Hey, Jake, welcome to the show. Good to see you. But when it's all said and done, he was one of the first ones. He blasted it. He jumped on Twitter almost immediately and put it out there that he would stand with the striking workers with the union. So
Yeah.
and
I mean, that is a Democrat thing.
he has
They're all
been
about unions.
he's been he's talked about unions throughout the campaign at various times and talked about of course how automation is going to affect unions and all of that. So it's going to be very interesting to see what pans out with that, but we won't have Cory Booker anymore. So here we are on Friday the 13th. Make your lucky signs if you need to. But we've got Cory Booker no longer in the race or not and no longer showing up at the debates. So the question is, how long will he remain in the race? What's your time frame, John? Call it
For Cory Booker,
before he drops from the race.
no, I give it to probably about February, depending on when the next debate is after that. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think he's going to go out before Christmas for sure. I don't know when's the next. Like we just had the Iowa caucus, I think it was.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so whenever the next one is after that one,
Isn't New Hampshire after Iowa?
I don't know.
But
I'm
so without the appearance in the debate, I don't know that he may see the writing on the wall and know that he won't have the steam on his own to carry to the next time.
Because hang on, didn't Tulsi miss one of them?
Tulsi miss one? She wasn't in
think
this
she
last
did.
one.
Right. Okay, so that was the one that she missed. Then she still got she's still doing pretty well.
But she's
Fairly well
Tulsi.
compared
She's
to-
not Cory.
Right. I mean, he was also kind of a big name before he ran, mainly due to the Kavanaugh
Sure.
hearings and stuff.
Right.
So I mean, he's already. I don't think his support's going to wane really. He hasn't had any kind of major faux pas or anything ridiculous like that.
But that's just it. I think that when you talk about Tulsi Gabbard, she's had enough. I don't want to say scandal, but enough dirt thrown around about her. With the whole Russian, whenever they were calling her
the
Russian
Russian. No one believes that.
right?
Shit.
But that
No
gave
one-
her that gave
no
her
one who votes believes that.
That's one of those things that gives you steam to make it through the lack of a debate. Now, she's not
That's
showing.
fair, yeah.
Now, since she's not going to be in this one, again, I won't give her. She hasn't. Nothing's happened to put her in the focus, in the spotlight. Because remember, no matter how much you go out and campaign on the stump, your media presence is ultimately important when it's all said and done. So she's not being thrown around in the mainstream media right now, but you are you are still seeing Biden, you're seeing Sanders,
Right.
Warren.
But you are seeing Tulsi on social media, which is you can't discount that. You can't I guess you can't underestimate the power of a social media movement because it is huge. And so I think that's first of all that's why both Tulsi and Yang are even still around is because of social media. Neither of them get any kind of mainstream attention.
It's possible that the social media angle could work for her, but she's not Trump. It's not going to work the same for her.
Right.
I mean,
It's
she
not,
doesn't
yeah.
she doesn't have that. So.
But to be fair, Trump was always in the mainstream. He was always getting mainstream attention. Now it was always negative,
Sure.
but he was always out front.
But
The main one being talked about.
But she doesn't have the star power. She doesn't have the media staying power. She needs to be talked about. She needs to have spin articles coming out about her, and she needs to be out there saying things that are getting noticed. Because even in public social media, she's obviously not putting things out there that are catching the attention of anybody. I mean, is she even being talked about that much in new media versus mainstream media? you have to look at that too. But no, I think Corey. I don't think Corey is going to be long for this race. I'll be surprised if he stays in it till the end of the year. But maybe into January, but I doubt it. And I think Tulsi, with 2 debates now that are going to pass her by, I have a strong feeling that Tulsi may not make it through January.
That's fair. Yeah, she might not make it if she's gonna miss 2 in a row, especially. She might not. Yeah.
I mean, you've got somebody like Tom Steyer is still in there.
Oh, dude, Brandon, what's up, bro?
How's it going, Brandon Sullivan? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Where did he? It's weird. It's weird. See, now tonight things are a little bit off because my chat in the stream is coming before my pop out chat that I have. Technology. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
So that's now in still talking about Democrats. Of course, we've got the impeachment going on, but something happened in the last couple of days that has got one House Democrat calling for Mitch McConnell to be recused from the impeachment proceedings altogether. Because McConnell came out and was talking on, what was he on? Was it Fox? I have to remember, trying to remember exactly. Oh, yeah, it was on Fox. Now, I'm going to play this, and then we'll talk opinions about it, okay?
All right.
Make a decision about the way forward. And everything I do during this, I'm coordinating with White House counsel. There will be no difference between the president's position and our position as to how to handle this to the extent that we can. We don't have the kind of ball control on this that a typical issue, for example, comes over for the House. If I don't like it, we don't take it up. We have no choice but to take it up, but we'll be working through this process, hopefully in a fairly short period of time, in total coordination with the White House counsel's office and the people who are representing the president in the well of the Senate.
So, all right. So, now I know that you looked at that, right?
Yeah.
You may not have heard it right then. And you heard what he said. He said, everything I do during this, I'm coordinating with White House counsel. Let's take that, okay? That's pretty innocuous, right? He's coordinating with White House counsel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But then he goes on and he says, there will be no difference between the president's position and our position as to how to handle this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but go ahead and tell me, your position on this. What your thoughts on this are.
I mean, it just seems like the obvious thing to do. Right. I mean, the Democrats are all going to vote one way. Makes sense for the Republicans to vote, all the same way, whatever way that might be. When it comes to, whether or not to remove the president, whether or not, how to handle the impeachments, that kind of thing. That's all going to go down party lines, no matter what. So I just don't get it. Why that's like some kind of scandal. Some kind of like, oh look, he's gonna just do what the president wants instead of being unbiased. It's like, well, I mean, no shit.
Well,
that's kind of how politics have been in this country for like 50, 60 years. I mean,
well, it's the idea of our checks and balances system. So basically,
right, that's thrown out the window a long time ago.
No, it hasn't. The impeachment
The
impeachment is an example of that. Maybe not a great example, but it is an example. Every impeachment that's gone on since we've had this is an example of the checks and balances system. But the argument here is that while it can be seen that he was saying they are just going to make sure that everything is coordinated, everybody knows what's going on. When he says that their position is not going to be any different than what the White House's position is, basically that he's taking cues from them, that he's coordinating with them. The idea is that he is basically sitting on the jury for Trump, and he's going to coordinate with the defendant as to how they proceed and
that's the thing,
how they move forward.
Not with the defendant, but the defendant's lawyer being the White House counsel, right?
Sure, White
It's
House.
not with the president himself, right? But I mean, even that's it's not exact. It doesn't exactly work like a courtroom
But see,
because what they do is they all just see the evidence and then vote
sure, he says
on
he's
whether or
going to
not.
coordinate with White House counsel, but he very specifically calls the president out
Hmm,
and says that there will be no difference between the president's position and
got
our
it.
position in how to handle this. And
And how to
that
handle
is
that? Yeah.
and that's a very damning comment. It's easy to see how people are getting upset by that because it basically
Well, yeah, because the mainstream media told them to be upset by it, so they are. I
well,
mean, yeah,
is it?
obviously.
Is it just that the media did? Because I mean, and
Yes.
this was tweeted out, of course, right? Who was it? Somebody tweeted it out, of course, on Twitter, and then of course people started responding to it. I mean, but the words themselves, that's not it. I hesitate when I hear it. I stop and I say, okay, this seems wrong that you might be insinuating that you're going to work with the person who's being impeached to make sure that at least half of the party, or is half of the Senate or the majority of the Senate is working from the same position, going in knowing we're going to protect this guy.
Yeah, but we knew that from the beginning, though. That's the thing. We knew it was going to
Yeah,
come to party lines.
I guess it's when they just put it out there in your face that we're just going to fucking do this. It doesn't matter that the Constitution, you know, I think it damages the reputation of constitutional proceedings by saying
Well,
openly
yeah, I
saying you're
mean,
going to coordinate with someone that you're supposed to be judging over.
yeah.
That's scary to me. That's a
Well,
place I
again, I
don't want
mean,
us to be.
again, the Constitution has been used as toilet paper for a very long time as well. I mean, trust me. I wish we could go back to following the Constitution more rigidly, but that's just not the world we live in.
Midget, it is, yes, the Senate is supposed to act as jury, and Mitch
I
McConnell
mean,
is the Senate
yeah,
majority leader. So
right.
that puts him as part of that jury, and they should not be coordinating their position with the president's position, in my opinion. I don't think that's the right. I don't. It's just, that shouldn't. That's not something you say.
Right.
You don't.
Well, yeah, I mean, he definitely could have phrased it in a different way or just not said anything at all. Um, but
Senate
I
Majority
mean, what are
Leader
you gonna
Mitch
do when it comes to that? But they're also not exactly the jury. Like, it's not exactly the same as in a normal courtroom.
Well, no, but they have to wait. They'll have the evidence to weigh, and they have to make a
Yeah,
vote on it. I mean, this really
right,
comes down to more of a vote like any other thing they vote on during the day.
right. And they
What
need a
is
two-thirds majority, which is different. I believe in a normal courtroom, it has to be unanimous.
in a normal courtroom? I believe so. It depends. I want to say that it depends on the case because you can
It
have
could be,
a
yeah,
majority in for low level cases, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that.
yeah.
I do know that for what is it? What do they call the highest level of crimes? Not high crimes, but I guess when it's in front of a grand jury,
Yeah, I guess so. I don't
maybe
know.
some level
I
of,
don't know.
but there's a level of crime. Yeah, anything else, anything but a unanimous vote is a hung jury. So
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not saying that. Like I said, it's easy to see how this can be taken two ways. I think you're right. I think McConnell should have really should have put that differently. He should have clarified something. He should have come out since and clarified, since it obviously tweaked enough people. Like
We'll
the media
see.
is not telling me to be upset by it. I listened to what he said, and that in and of itself is upsetting to me. Right? It's hearing
Yeah.
it straight from his mouth.
And see, the thing is about that, though, if he did come out and clarify it, that can only do more damage than not doing it.
It
Because no
does.
matter what he says, he's either backpedaling or doubling down. Those are the only two options that he has. That is going to be spun with whatever he says.
So
He's either backpedaling to cover his own ass, or he's doubling down, and he's more in bed with Trump instead of being fair. So there's really nothing that he could do.
You realize that once, long ago, the it was I don't know, you know, not that big of an issue to come out and say, you know, I misspoke when I said this. You know, it used to be a thing where you came out and you had more integrity when you came out and owned that you said something wrong, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you do it, it's just like it's a thoroughly weak position, which is stupid. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, you know, whatever happened to honesty is the best policy. Yes,
Well, it's because
I honestly believe I made a mistake in what I said, but
yeah.
now I'm a cuck because I do.
Well, yeah, it's because apologies don't mean anything anymore.
It
People will take
doesn't,
your
does it?
apology. One side will say, "Oh, well, that wasn't a real apology. So you're still, evil and ridiculous or whatever."
Right, because
And
the
and the other
assumption.
side will say, "Well, now you're weak because you apologize. You shouldn't have done that." And then you're fucked on both sides instead of just one. So,
You know,
I mean, it's really unfortunate.
it's funny you say that because I told you before, off mic I had a question for you. So since you're talking about that, the apology, I want to ask you this question. It's a little off topic, but it does speak to the impeachment. During the impeachment investigations, when they had the four law professors there talking, and the female law professor that was there, Carlin. Anyway, she's talking about how Trump can't just, you know, take power and do whatever he wants. And one of the comments that she made at the end of what she was saying was, you know, just because he's named his son Baron doesn't mean he could actually make him a Baron. Speaking to, he can't have that kind of power where he does these things, right? And that was, that one comment in the context of what she was saying basically said he doesn't have the power to make his son a lord of the land. He can't do that, right? Everybody flips out. You know, they're calling her a horrible person because she brought the president's son into the impeachment trials, this, that, and the other. And everybody's like, the other side is like, but she didn't say anything negative about him. She just it was the play
She
on
just used the
words with his
name.
name,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Oh, even the mom was like, gets on her anti-bullying pulpit and, and calls it out. Apparently this happened. It wasn't real huge in the media because it was, what I read today that prompted me to go back and look at it, but it's true. And they were saying she was being kind of a bully and you don't bring kids' names into it. And I'm like, bullshit. Go back and look at Senior Bush and his daughter. He had a daughter running around. Young Bush had a daughter running around.
Yeah.
We've got folks with kids that have done stupid things, whether they were in the White House or not, and they've been out there. Amy Carter was all over all the time. It happens. But of course, they were horrible people. She was a horrible person, and she later came out later in that same day, and she apologized for saying what she said. And I'm like, okay, that's a fuck up right there. You did not say anything wrong. You did not drag that boy into it and say anything negative about him. You just
not only that, but it is
on
also
the name.
inaccurate. He could actually make him a baron. He's got the money to do it. Not in this country. But
right, no, but that's what she was speaking to, was this country, right?
Yeah.
So, fast forward to the last couple of days, Greta Thunberg is named Time Magazine's Person of the Year, right? And Trump takes to twit, the twit.
Takes to twit.
And he goes out and he's like, basically called her out. I forget what he said. Basically saying, you need some help. You got problems. Chill out. It's him telling her she needs to chill out.
Well, yeah, but what he said really was, you should be, living your life. You should be doing what other 16-year-old girls are doing at your age.
Sure.
But going out with friends, having fun, whatever.
Right.
Going to school for one. Shit like that. And see, well, no, Greta has not actually put herself out there. Her parents did that.
Yeah.
And,
well, she continues to be out there now, though.
Well, yeah.
She continues to do that. But, so after he comes out and he does that, then turn around and somebody was like, "Oh, this is a news angle," and so they started getting on the phone, and they're trying to get a, they attempted to get responses from different people who had called out Carlin for invoking Barron's name during the impeachment because she was a bully. So they're trying to contact anybody that had said something negative about this woman, and nobody would respond. Melania wouldn't respond. Other people in Washington who called him out, Republicans who called her out for that, they wouldn't respond to it. It's like, is the president not bullying Greta when he says these kind of things? I mean, he's attacking a child. How does this not fall under your category of bullying? And nobody would answer back.
Well, I mean,
on
I think it's more passive aggressive than it is like actually attacking a child. Like, obviously not physically attacking because that hasn't been done since Nick Sandman. But yeah, I mean, no. It's totally different in that one, Seawall's right in that Barron hasn't actually put himself out there to be criticized. It's just because of who his father is.
Yet he was not criticized at all.
No, I know, I understand, yeah, and I disagree with that as well. I don't think that he was. But of course, people spun it that way. But I mean, yeah, you can bring up, children being attacked, all you want. It's wrong no matter who does it. So
right.
Fucking stop it.
So, and that being but that's I guess that's the
but
point.
Also, at the same time, as a child, and when I say child, I mean someone under the age of 18. If you don't want to be criticized, don't put yourself or don't allow yourself to be put into the public sphere. Because then you will be criticized. You are fair game at that point.
Sure.
And so that's why there's a difference between Greta and Barron. Is that Barron has not put himself out there. He has not been propped up either.
Sure.
He's just the kid of the president. Whereas Greta has actually been propped up and put out there as an activist. Same thing with David Hogg.
I get that, but it doesn't answer to the question. From these people that called out the comment about Barron. It doesn't answer to the for the fact that he wasn't invoked he wasn't invoked. I know you do. I'm just saying, he wasn't invoked in a negative way. It was only his name was all that was talked about, not the boy himself, right? So, so it is two distinctly different things in the president directing a comment directly at this girl and someone making a passing comment about a person's name that just happens to be the president's son.
Right.
It is some hypocrisy. It's some hypocrisy to point out. And, especially like Melania, it is insane to me how she can sit and continue to take on cyberbullying as her platform while she's married, while she sits. I don't know, man. That's got to be the most ironic thing out of the entire presidency. Still
that's
to this
the thing,
day,
right? Does Barron have a Twitter account? I don't think so. If I'm not mistaken, he's too young to have one. Not that stops anyone, but
sure,
by Twitter's terms of service, he's not allowed to have one.
Sure.
As far as I know, he might. How old is he now?
I think I want to say 11 or 12.
Well, I think he was when Trump was first elected, so he might be over 13.
I don't know. I'll get my research guy to look it up.
Yeah, Chet, tell us how old Barron is, because I'm talking at the moment.
You can't talk and type at the same time?
No, I'm too stupid. But I was saying, if Barron doesn't have a Twitter account, then he's not going to see those comments, or if he's not watching the news all the time like any 13-year-old kid would do.
He's old enough to have a Twitter account.
Is he?
He's 13 years old. Or have they changed the age that you can have a Twitter
account?
No,
I think it's still 13, but if he doesn't mean he does have one. I mean, he probably has Instagram and stuff. Like, kids these days don't have Twitter accounts or Facebook accounts and stuff. They go to Instagram, Snapchat. I don't know what else they go to. Whatever else kids are doing these days. But yeah, I mean, he's not going to see those comments, especially if he doesn't watch the news. If he doesn't watch CNN, which I doubt he would, then he's not going to know about it unless somebody tells him.
Seawall says Greta is a public figure. If Greta advocated genocide and some powerful told her publicly to calm the fuck down, is it justified? Yes, that is justified. However, this was a response to her being chosen as person of time or people's person of the
Person of the
year.
year, yeah.
And I mean, she had put something out on Twitter basically saying that her what she was doing didn't fall between on either side of the party lines, that it was, basically that they neither side was doing a very good job of anything anyway, that what she was doing was not about the political sphere,
Right.
it's about the environment, that kind of thing. But you know it's she wasn't reaching out, she wasn't doing something to garner, and I'll use air quotes, any kind of attack or attention from him, other than being recognized for something. And to me, it's
Right.
if you put a tweet out there because she got chosen as person of the year, then you're just a hater. You're just jealous, right? I mean, come on.
Well, I mean,
Don.
I'll give the actual criticism for her being Times Person of the Year. The actual criticism is that they put out a poll online to see who the people thought should be the Person of the Year, and it was the Hong Kong protesters. People were actually doing things. People
Right.
were actually
Sure.
being oppressed and trying to stop that. Whereas she gets to drive around on a yacht and go and tell much, more powerful people what pieces of shit they are. I mean, there's a big difference between those two.
Look, when it's all said and done, though, you know, people can rag on her all they want, but every movement has a face.
Well,
And
she's also apparently been usurped already. So there's apparently like a 14-year-old girl that's doing about the same thing she's doing. So we'll
uh,
be hearing about that, I'm sure, in a few weeks or so, or a few days maybe.
Ron Helton says Time magazine is no longer relevant. The magazine has gone off the rails. Tried to read it a few months back and just could not finish any of their ridiculous articles. However, it apparently is relevant to certain people who, want to make sure that they recognize Greta for her accomplishment.
Well, I also agree with what Ron. I also agree with what Ron Hilton said when he says Greta is child abuse.
She is.
Horrible parents. What horrible parents? Absolutely, that's who I blame.
Well,
I have no problem with Greta herself.
Well, let me
It's
ask,
her parents and the handlers who prop her
how
up.
old is Greta?
Tell her how to. She's 16.
Okay, so then you know what? I'm going to go ahead and
But
tell you this right now.
yeah,
Before you go too much further down this path of child abuse and Greta's parents, yes, they may have sold her on it. Every good agent will. But I will tell you this, at 16 years old, that girl is able to make up her own mind as to whether or not she wants to go along with it. They're not
are
forcing
you
her.
sure?
Yes.
Are you sure? Because she
Yes.
has. You know,
Yes, I
understand
can.
that she has a heavy amount of autism, right? And that's not like some kind of internet joke or anything. She is actually
Is she intelligent
diagnosed.
and is she cognizant?
Probably.
Is she
I don't know.
cognizant? I mean,
Well, I mean,
you've
maybe.
heard her. You've
but
heard her speak. I mean, she can speak
but she's
rationally. Is
got,
everything scripted that she said?
yes.
Do we
yes,
know that for a
everything that
fact?
well, yeah. I mean, she only gives speeches. You don't really hear her talking off the cuff.
I mean, that's what I would want to know. So if everything that she's saying in media is scripted, and if she's not putting out tweets, if she's not putting out her opinion, if it's
no, I
being
guarantee
fed
she
to
does
her,
not run her own.
well, you can't
She doesn't.
guarantee me without facts.
I guess
John.
I can't guarantee,
You
but
can't.
I'm pretty damn sure that she does not run her own Twitter account.
And just so you'll know, there are autistic people out there living their
Yes.
own lives,
No, I understand.
making
I'm
their
saying
own
she is-
decisions.
Yeah, but she is severely autistic. It's not like just a little bit on the spectrum. She is severely autistic.
There are severe autistics that actually can make it out there on the
Autistics.
autistics that make it out there on their own. They have severe autism, but they deal and they cope and they manage to live their life. I mean, does she have to have a medical handler with her constantly, or a guardian with her constantly to make
Well, you
sure
know
that she's okay? Like,
right. I mean,
like a
obviously her
shield?
parents. Yes, obviously her parents travel with her. I'm pretty sure, and she's got handlers. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people will say a lot of things about her, but when it's all said and done, show me the facts that she is not as culpable in her presence as her parents. That remains to be seen for me, because all I do is hear people say things, but I haven't seen a lot of information pointing to, okay, this is what's wrong with her, and no, she could not fully function and
Yes.
do this on her own without
No,
someone guiding her.
she has I believe she has Asperger's as well, and like selective mutism, which means that she might go like a week or so without speaking at all. Which is weird because she hasn't done that lately. Um, so it sounds like she just wants attention, but who knows what that is. I'm not really too sure about what selective mutism is. It sounds like you just want to give the cold shoulder to people, but maybe I'm being ignorant there. But yeah, she's got a slew of mental problems. So I mean, yeah, again, she's not doing this of her own accord necessarily. She might believe it. I believe that she does believe it. But I mean, her parents were both environmentalists, things like that.
Gotcha.
So
And
obviously, she grew up in that sort of environment. She didn't come to these conclusions on her own. She didn't come to these solutions on her own. She didn't gather all this
well,
data and stuff
sure.
on her own.
No, she didn't, but that's also the environment she grew up in, right? I mean, if you grow
Right.
up in a house that recycles all the time, you're probably going to go into a life of recycling when you leave that house, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is. It's just, if you grow up in a
But that's
commune, you
but
grow up
that's
with a
only one
commune
aspect.
frame of mind, right?
Right. But that's only one aspect of
I
what I'm
mean,
saying
God
about the
forbid,
whole.
should you be Ed Begley Jr.'s child?
I don't know who that is. I think you're
You don't know
aging
who
yourself.
Ed Begley Jr. is? He's like one of the
No.
most hardcore fucking environmentalists. Like reuses his own shit for stuff. Kind of he was big time celebrity and everything, and then he went on the environmental kick and he kind of went into obscurity, but he still does it, right? It's funny how
Yeah.
that happens. And again, like I said, I agree. I understand how severe autism can be, and if it is, if she that needs to be more fully exposed, then
Well, it's
that
not going to be though, is it? Because it's
I
going to
don't know.
undermine.
I mean,
It's going to no. It's going to undermine
everything gets
like her voice and
exposed. If
everything.
if one side or the other wants it bad enough, it'll get exposed,
Oh
John.
no, it's exposed already. We know what her mental illnesses are. It's
We
just
know
whether or
what
not.
but we don't know the level at what she's capable of functioning at. I mean, we
Well, yeah.
assume that it's her parents that are pushing her doing this. That's the assumption. And that's the part I'm talking about. Is I get it why everybody would go that route. I understand. But she is not inherently a bad person herself.
No,
And
I don't think
and
she herself is. No.
and if we're rational enough, if you're rational enough to make this supposition that it's her parents doing this, so she's a victim of abuse, then that
Right.
speaks more loudly to people abusing her online. How is
No,
that any good for her?
that's well. No, it's not. I don't think she's online.
Well,
No. Again, I think it's her parents who are abusing her. That's who it is.
so you believe that she is completely bubbled from anything that's being said about her out in the world.
Yes. Have you known someone who is severely autistic before?
Yeah.
They can't. Yeah, they can't deal with that sort of thing.
So
It,
that doesn't mean they bubble themselves from it. That someone would
no, but
actually
the
have to be
parent
keeping
does.
everything that the world is
Yeah.
saying about her away from her.
Yes.
All right. And again, I would have to see proof of that, because otherwise, that's just as abusive as what her parents are doing to her. If people really think that she is mentally ill and she has problems, saying negative shit about her online and putting it out there and defaming her specifically, that's fucked up,
I
in
don't
my
think
opinion.
most people do. I'm not. Obviously, there are people who do that. I don't think most people do. I think most people pity her
Sure, but
because of what's going.
I've seen you mock her, not her parents. You
Yeah.
mock
Sure.
her, not her parents, and that's what the
Yeah.
world is doing, mocking her, not her parents. And in some way, shape, or form, I refuse to believe that that's not having some impact on her if what we say is true about her parents being abusive in what they're doing. I cannot for a minute believe that she's completely bubble wrapped from everything that's being said about her.
I mean, how hard would that be to do? Why does she need a phone when she's surrounded by people constantly who will get her to where she needs to go? You know what I mean? Like,
So, and I would assume that every media outlet that actually talks to her, that does any kind of interview with her, is specifically directed not to comment or talk about anything negative that's being said about her.
well, have we heard them bring it
I
up?
don't know. I don't follow it because
Right, neither do I.
it's the sad part about it is that as we've established, a lot of assumptions are made on the topic. But the other part is, yeah, it's because she's a face for something that is important, but it's being done the wrong way. So no, I can't get behind it, and I don't want to see the mockery of this girl if she is actually a victim. I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to watch it. That's
Yeah.
some Schadenfreude I don't fucking need because that hurts. That part of me inside, that little bitty speck of empathy I have, I can't watch it. I don't want to see that happen. And I don't want to see the hypocrisy of people who say, "Oh, this girl is being abused. Let me say shit about her in a mean way." You know.
Yeah.
Brandon says, "What about the boy who created the automated boat that cleans trash out of the ocean? What about the boy who had the experiment that led to the solution to BP's oil spill in the Gulf? That girl was a puppet and has done nothing to contribute to her cause." And I get it, but that's
Right.
if what we're saying is true,
why,
it's not her
hang on,
fault.
Robert, hang on. The reason why those aren't brought up is because they don't fit the narrative. That someone actually come up with a solution and solve the problem without government intervention. The problem is with Greta, she wants all the government intervention, and that's why that fits the narrative.
See, and there it is, right there.
That's
right
exactly
there.
what it is.
Hold on.
Not talking about that.
But okay, hold on. The kids that he's talking about that have done these things, yes, I agree. They should be out there. They should be talked about. It should be big fucking news. But if she is a puppet and she is not in control of what she's doing, Greta doesn't want shit. Greta's a mouthpiece for people, and that is not her fault.
Fine, fair enough. I'm just saying that she doesn't fit the she fits the narrative. The two that Brendan brought up don't fit the narrative because they're doing things themselves. They're allowing, people to solve the problem as opposed to government. Which, of course, with Greta's parents, most likely, they want government to solve the problem.
And so all I ask is, where is more of the public outcry and attack on her parents or her handlers? Why is there not more of that? Right. And see that. See, and everybody goes for the easy target.
And the mainstream narrative is that she's the glorious one. She is the one. She's the savior of all mankind. So, of course, she's the spotlight in the media, which means that that's what everybody sees, including people who don't like her. She's the one that's out front in your face. And so, of course, people who don't look into things like that, she's going to be the target of their vitriol.
Right, but that's what's amazing to me is that these people want to say that they're smart enough to see that she's not the actual target. She shouldn't be the actual target, but they still target her anyway.
Well, no, I'm saying those are two separate groups of people who... Some people, like I said, because you're right, the people who only watch the mainstream media see only her, only hear her, that's why she's a target. Whereas other people might realize that she's being puppeted. And so they're going to go after her parents, the people who are in charge of her.
That's all. The only moral I have from all of this is, if you think the girl's a puppet, don't attack the fucking girl. That's what I say. That's all I have to say to people because if you don't think that this girl is capable of being the person that she's being presented as, that someone is using her as a tool and abusing her, then don't fucking attack her. Attack the people that are doing the wrong. That's why, like I said, that's why I can't watch it. But, it is what it is. He called her, he said something to her, and the whole point to this was, nobody who said that the professor was a bully was willing to comment on whether or not the bully was being a bully. Because he is kind of a bully. I'm just putting it out there. Again, the irony of what his wife does. Brandon says it's not her fault she was put on a pedestal. The liberals thought they could use her because no one can attack her, but she was put in the spotlight. Although she's a child, she's in the public eye now. And I agree, which again, solidifies my resolve that now we are talking about a minor who's been, allegedly forced into the public eye, which I would assume would be against her will normally. I mean, then we need to go after the abusers. We need to go after the abusers.
She may have wanted to, but I don't think she's old enough to make that decision for herself. Well, I mean, just like when I was 16, I wanted to be someone super famous and stuff, but now I don't. I couldn't handle that amount, of fame or anything.
Sure.
So just because someone wants to do something doesn't mean that they should do it, especially at that young of an age.
This has been mentioned a couple of times in the chat. I think we have to talk about this for a moment. Ron Helton says, just attack the crazy ideas that she is spouting, or we could end up with millions dead on this planet if we don't stop the insanity coming from the climate alarmists. Now, I can agree with that to a certain extent. Just as well, I 100% yes, but 100% I can also agree that if, in this world, if things aren't calm down a little bit. I mean, we've got resources. We got shit in this world that are finite. So, we still need to consider that, right?
Sure, of course.
But, that being said, I'm a firm believer that, the world itself, nature itself is not afraid to hit the reset button when it's time. Not that it's the climate so much, right? But, I mean, things happen. With a planet being in space, floating around, shit happens. There is an extinction level event coming. We are due. I mean, it hasn't happened for a long fucking time. And when I say an extinction level, maybe not full extinction level, but to the extent like Ron's talking about, where millions are going to die. I mean, I firmly believe we're on the verge of releasing some fucking virus that's just going to wipe out a bunch of people, right? No, it's not going to make them zombies, but it's going to kill a bunch of fucking people. Or we're on the verge of people getting willy-nilly with their missiles and their nukes and their wartime mindset. These are things that it could do it as well. We're on the verge of something happening, so I wouldn't worry about what the climate alarmists are going to do, because I honestly believe we're within 2 decades of something severely major happening, and it's going to be on a global level. I mean, we've already had 2 world wars in the last century, not to mention countless other large conflicts, but 2 world wars in the last century, we're kind of brewing up for another brouhaha, as it were. I mean, do you not feel like something cataclysmic is going to happen in this world in your lifetime, John?
If it does, it's going to be man-made. I don't think it's going to be like climate change, or it's not going to be some kind of cataclysmic. It's going to be some kind of like the next ice age or whatever. You know what I mean? I think it's going to be man destroying itself. If anything, if it does, which is why I would say we should, colonize another planet as quickly as possible.
Well, see, and that's why I go. Ron Helton says the same thing. Nature is in charge. We are more in danger of a comet strike or another worldwide pandemic, and that's exactly what I'm saying. When was the last time we had a really good meteor strike on this planet? We're watching asteroids zipping by us constantly now that we can see them, and now that we're watching them, over the last decade, we've seen more asteroids flying right by the planet than we've seen.
How many times has that been?
Oh, right.
In December of next year, there's going to be
another near miss.
That could very near. Oh, I hate that word. That
30 million miles away, it flew right by us. Woo!
Hang on. Let's talk about that real quick. Near miss, right? Because you've talked about like words and phrases that like bother you. That's one of them that bothers me. Near miss. Well, then you hit, didn't you? If it's a near miss, that means you got hit. It almost missed.
Well, no. What it's saying is it was right. You have to individualize the words. You have to
I understand what it
individualize
means.
it. Come on. Get your
But yeah,
specificity out.
I understand what it means, but yeah, it means like, yeah, if you nearly missed, then you hit. Like,
Brandon Sullivan says Virginia is where the issues are at right now. Tensions are getting worse. What's going on in Virginia? Do you know?
yeah, they're doing. They just got elected a Democrat mayor, not mayor, a governor, and like trying to get a whole bunch of gun laws and stuff passed. I'm not super familiar with it, but yeah, that was the last thing I heard about it.
So Virginia is going to become a hotbed of sanctuary counties now?
I hope so.
Because that's going to be the trendy thing to do, is to take your gun.
Yeah.
Gun legislation is now going to. That's interesting because it seems to be getting down to the community level now. Like, we're going to legislate on a small scale. Fuck you, state. Fuck you, federal.
Yes, that's
right?
how it's supposed to be. Yes, absolutely.
Well, hold on.
No, fuck you.
Time out.
Yes, that's how it's supposed to
From
be.
a constitutional standpoint, states' rights, yes, but doesn't a state constitution have to call for counties' rights? Doesn't that have to be expressly given? Because when we get to a state level, is there any provision to set it up so that even a smaller level of government has more sway than the overriding state? There you go.
Well, I mean, yeah, technically, federal law trumps state law trumps, county law trumps town law, all that kind of down the hierarchy.
But are there counties' rights?
Well, I mean, I think there should be. Yeah, I think there are. I think because you have to challenge it in court, right? So then you're sending these legislations.
Right. We do have a state. We have a state Supreme Court. Right.
Right, and determining whether or not that law is actually constitutional or not, and that's the point of doing that, right?
It'd be interesting to see how that pans out because guns are getting down to the micromanagement level at this point is what we're going to watch. Ed says that Pecker Liquor Evers here in Wisconsin is trying to EO red flag laws. Ron Helton says they found evidence of a major celestial strike about 12,000 years ago. Graham discussed it on Joe Rogan's show. Graham has suggested that nature had already hit the reset button at that time. Yeah, but that's 12,000 years. I mean, things have sped up. Come on. I mean, nature evolves too. Brandon says over 80 out of 90 plus counties have started making laws against gun laws, and they have come out and told law enforcement to resign honorably before facing charges for not following law.
Oh, so that's what's actually going on. Okay, yeah. So the counties are fighting the state laws.
It'll be interesting to see how it pans out. Hopefully it won't come to too much crazy. Even talks of National Guard upholding new laws they want to implement. Wow, that's going to be a tough sell.
That is the impetus of the Boogaloo right there. As soon as the military gets involved, that's it. And Boogaloo now. That's what's going to happen.
Whew, that's going to be, wow. Can you imagine? Can the county call up National Guard like that? Ooh.
Yeah.
Counties right. Ed says counties' rights depend on state charters, which is what I assume. So
right.
I'm assuming it's different for every state.
Right. Well, my point of it, yeah. So my point of it is, though, either way, no matter what the state says, then if there's a conflict between the county laws and the state laws, then it will go to a higher court, to a federal court, and then it'll be determined whether or not the state's law that was brought up is constitutional or not.
Right.
And so that will challenge those gun laws in general. And then once there's a precedent set, it goes, generally one way or the other, whichever one was decided on.
Well, I believe I agree with Ed that it's got to be in a state constitution / charter that a county can make law in direct violation of state law or in contradiction of state law. I would think otherwise.
But if the state law is determined to be unconstitutional,
well. Yeah, I understand taking it. I'm talking way before we get to the point of challenging it in a court. I'm talking about to the point of whether or not you can actually feasibly make the law.
Right. No, they can. Yeah, as long as it passes, they can make the law. It's just whether or not it'll be upheld after being scrutinized.
Well, anyway, I agree with Ed that it all depends on the state's recognition of county laws.
Well, yeah.
The state charters and constitutions will determine that. Where are we at? Midget says, I would say it would be down to the state constitution to decentralize governance to counties. Brandon says, not for a revolution, but I would have half a mind of going up to Virginia strapped up if it came to that. Wow.
Yeah.
Ballsy. Individual, Ron Helton says, individual inherent rights trump all those SOBs. That individual inherent rights, that thing bothers me.
He's absolutely right about that, though.
Maybe it's in your opinion, right?
No, it does.
No, because I disagree that rights are man-made. They're a man-made construct.
They're not, though.
They are. Nature does not inherently give you rights. It does not have any power to do so unless there is something in authority. Nature is not an authority.
No.
Food is there. Nature doesn't stop you from going to go get the food. It doesn't tell you, if you piss on a plant that produces food, nature doesn't stop you or punish you for doing that.
Right.
So nature doesn't have authority to give rights.
To have authority.
Right. Rights are defined by men.
No, like you mentioned food. You have a right to try and procure breakfast.
Who
you
says?
Have a right to eat breakfast.
That's instinct. That's instinct, not right.
Yes,
that's
instinct.
Part of your rights. That's instinct.
Oh my god. We can have that argument a different time.
But anyway, that was That's my point. Nature, that's when Anna Voltis and Matt Christensen were, when I sat back and thought about it after the fact, that's what I came to is, that's kind of what Anna Voltis was trying to say in a nutshell.
Right.
Nature doesn't have authority over you. You look to authority to guarantee those rights, whether it be your natural rights.
To guarantee them, not to give them to you. There's a difference between those.
Right. You give them to yourselves when you define that it is my right to go get food.
No.
Yes. It is self-defined.
It is not self-defined.
If you don't say it, it's not a thing.
I'm still going to bring up the deserted island.
I understand that, but that doesn't, that's you telling yourself you have the right. That's you telling yourself you have a right to do it.
Because you do.
Yeah, you're the authority giving yourself the right to do it. You're the authority in that situation. You've always got instinct.
Other people can take those rights from you, but you've got them, and you should fight to defend them.
Natural rights are instinct. That's all they are. That's what they boil down to.
Okay.
That's instinct. Okay. It's not natural right. It's just natural.
It is natural rights as well, yeah.
It's your instinct. Look up natural right and look up instinct. I guarantee you they're going to be defined two different ways.
Oh my god, anyway, yeah. Get into this a different time.
But it says, dude, Melania can't see anything. She's always squinting. Don should get her a pair of glasses. That's true. She does squint a lot. Maybe it's easier to look at him that way if she blurs him out. Then she can rationalize what the fuck she's doing. She just sees dollar signs in her blurry vision. Ron Hill says, no, Graham said that there were advanced civilizations before that strike that were destroyed. Maybe that was where they got Sodom and Gomorrah from, the idea of it.
Well, it would have been like the Sumerians.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, these other ancient civilizations. The Amazon had one, apparently.
I'm just trying to give the God prop, maybe, whatever. Governors of the state have to get permission from the federal government to use the Guard. The Guard was federalized. So in talking about Virginia, I mean, who's going to use the National Guard and who can use the National Guard? It says all of the Guard equipment and payroll comes from the federal government, of course, right? I mean, I know that the National Guard in any state is federal because it's military ultimately.
Yeah.
So I know that the state has the right to use them, but
yeah. Which is ridiculous. So the National Guard obviously should be funded at a state level, but that's where our militia turned into the National Guard.
Is that now? Do you say that more out of fear that the government would be able to use the military because they are the ones funding it? It is theirs, or are you saying that the states should just fund it because it's their responsibility since they get to use them, but they're still ultimately federal troops?
Well, both, except for the last part where about them being federal troops. They should not be federal troops, is what I'm saying. They should be state troops. They should be basically the state militia like they were intended to be originally.
So you don't think our military should offer a presence in the states, or is that more a fear
Well,
of
no,
having
yeah.
presence in the states?
So we already have bases, which I'm fine with.
Well,
You
sure.
got to have military bases around. So the actual army, the actual navy, the actual Marine Corps, that's all federal. That's fine.
Sure.
Air Force as well. That's fine. When it comes to National Guard, that's supposed to be at a state level. That's supposed to be the state's militia, which would be brought up in service if needed by the federal government, but also meant there to. So if you go back in our history, not in the modern day, um, they were there to keep peace in times of huge riots and things like that. Which
Well, right.
we have a more militarized police force now, which I'm also not for necessarily. Um, but no, the National Guard is supposed to be for militia. It's supposed to be to either keep the peace or to fight against the government, the federal government, should that need to happen. And that's the whole point of having the militia. That's why the Second Amendment mentions the well-regulated militia. Well, that's what the National Guard was until it was nationalized.
Right. Um,
So now we don't have that anymore.
But it does give the federal government widespread coverage should an emergency arise, some sort of situation happen where the federal government needs to act fast. They have troops, they have resources spread throughout the state, as opposed to all sequestered on a military base here or there.
Right. So there's no reason why you couldn't call up the militia in a time like that.
But
right, there's no reason why you can't say, "Hey, state, whatever state that is,
but
lend us your militia for X amount of months or whatever."
But the state can say no.
Well, yeah, that's the point.
And that's the problem as well. Then
okay,
the military, then the
no,
government
no.
doesn't have the presence there that they need. They can't
No, they
count
do, though.
on
There's
having the presence there.
There's still bases in most states.
I understand. I just addressed that. I'm talking about the coverage, the immediate
Robert,
need.
You're not listening. Listen. There's no reason why a state would say no if the cause was actually
Bullshit.
just.
Have you seen our politics lately? I knew you were going to
It's
say
not-
that,
no,
and it's
it's
bullshit. It's
Okay.
bullshit. A state
Okay,
will quickly say
what
no.
What would be a legitimate cause for a militia to be drummed up?
I didn't say a
what would be-
militia.
Well, no, okay. So
You're
National
using the
Guard,
word militia.
because that's what the National Guard was supposed to be. So
what it was
would be the
supposed to
case-
be and what it is now are two
Oh
different
my
things.
God! Will you just let me just fucking? I'm trying to help you here.
But you're talking
Okay.
in a circle, John. The
No,
military.
you are the one talking in a circle.
You can't tell me how the federal government is going to have the presence that they want in states with
Because I'm trying
state-run.
to.
No, the fucking
You
states.
keep
will
interrupting me. I'm trying to
Okay.
tell you, but you keep
Okay.
interrupting me.
Go ahead and talk in a circle. You're not going to
I'm
tell me
not.
something tangible.
I'm not. I am, because I'm saying that there's no reason why a state would say, no, you can't have our militia if the cause was legitimate.
You've already said that, and I said yes, there is. There's plenty of reasons. Politics,
Like what?
partisan politics.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying my next response was, what would be a legitimate reason to bring them up, to use them?
I don't know.
At a federal level, what would be the
I don't
reason
know.
to use
There's
them?
probably never any, John. Never.
Okay, what about the case of an
We
invasion?
don't have a society that wants the federal government to take care of everything. I don't know what
Yes, we
would
do.
possibly.
That is exactly what society.
So then there it is.
What's
Whatever
that?
situation the populace in that state
Yes,
or that
which-
region wants the federal government to get involved.
Yes, which I'm disagreeing with. So, what would be a legitimate case for National
I
Guard
already
to be
said.
brought up in
I
service
already
would
answered
be-
that question when I said
you
I
said
don't
no.
know. Probably nothing.
But there would be. An invasion would be one of them. An invasion by a foreign power would be one of them.
Probably not. We wouldn't be invaded. You've told me this before off mic. Nobody's ever going to invade us.
I've said it on the show too. I don't think they're going to. But what
Okay,
if they
so
did?
then it's not valid.
Oh
give
my
me
God, all
give
right.
me
So
a
let's
reason
move on.
that you find valid.
Let's move on, because you're not going to listen. Let's move on.
I'm just saying the federal government wants a
No.
presence, and people want the federal government to have a presence in their states,
That's fine. Let's
or the
move on.
National Guard wouldn't exist.
Okay.
You
Let's
disagree?
move on. I'm moving on. What's our next topic?
I was just reading chat.
Well, let's read some chat then.
Go ahead.
Cameron says, "Good evening, humans. Hello." Ron Hilton says we need to get rid of a standing army. The Constitution forbade it. go back to local militias. Well, that would be nice. I don't think it's practical at this point. Um, in fact, shortly after the Constitution, we ended up having a navy anyway, and we had an army from the beginning. Um, and a Marine Corps. I don't think that was. I understand why they did it, but I don't think that's a good reason. I don't think it's practical. Basically, is what I'm saying. I don't think it's practical. Every little thing is a fight to survive. Right, inherent rights. Um, Congress must vote on military appropriations every 2 years to decide to continue funding a standing army or disband it. This is probably why we've been at constant war. They won't disband. Even if we weren't at war, I don't think they would disband. Um, so we're an empire at this point, which we were never intended to be, but we are, and that's why I don't think they're going to disband it anyway. Even if we were at peace, we're not going to disband. And not only that, but most people don't even know that we're not supposed to have a standing army. But yeah, even was it during the Revolutionary War or the War of 1812? I think it was the War of 1812 when they commissioned 6 frigates for the U.S. Navy, and that was our navy at the time. It was pretty shitty, but we also paid a whole bunch of privateers.
I think the last 150 years has quite easily shown us that we don't have a choice but to have a standing army.
Yeah, I agree.
We don't have a choice. So this is one of those things that points to where the Constitution was framed at a time where they couldn't grasp certain concepts of the future. They had no idea that the global picture was going to be the way it is now, and the things that were going to happen. Yeah. So that was one of those things that could be considered short-sighted in the Constitution. We could not exist without a standing army. We would have been taken over long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because we just barely won the War of 1812, which we started also.
Right.
But for what I consider to be, like, it's kind of a gray area whether or not it was a good cause. Like, the reason why we went to war there was mainly because we were it was at the height of the Napoleonic Wars, when England and France were kicking the shit out of each other, and Napoleon was conquering fucking all of Europe. We were trading excessively with France, and England didn't like that. So what they did was they said all American merchant ships have to stop in England to get to pay a tariff, and then they got like a little stamp, saying you paid. Otherwise, their ships would be taken by the British privateers, and also they were like taking anyone that had like a slight British accent or could be proven was a British citizen from American ships and pushing them into the British Navy. And so they're taking our citizens off of our own ships and pressing them into the British Navy, which we didn't like either. So because of that, we invaded Canada, which was British at the time, and we failed. we invaded in 3 different spots. One of them didn't take place. The other 2 failed miserably, and then so we just kind of had to fight a defensive war from then on. So, yeah, War of 1812.
Okay.
But my point of that was about the military and having to maintain an actual military, because we almost got our asses kicked. I mean, they burned down the White House. They pretty much just traipsed all along, all around America without much resistance until we found them in open battle.
Much like everybody does today.
Right. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, we need, that was when they decided that yes, we need to have a military, a standing military at all times. Yeah.
Which is why they maintain a National Guard as well.
Okay.
That's part of the standing military.
It is.
We have to have it. It's sad but true. It's those structures are too big to take away. The American public couldn't handle it. They wouldn't know what to do. And God knows, I would not want a state like Alabama having control over its own National Guard.
Why not?
I think I said it in the statement. I used the key word, Alabama.
What's wrong with Alabama?
Go there sometime. Visit there sometime.
I mean,
Enjoy there sometime.
I drove through the little like part that sticks out into the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh!
I
I'm
drove
sorry.
through that.
No, stop and visit for a while.
Okay, I mean, what are they going to do? What are they going to attack?
Well, no, I
Mississippi?
mean,
Are they gonna
I'm
attack
using them.
Georgia?
I'm
I
using
mean,
them as an example. I mean, in a state with its own standing army itself, that's what it would be considered, their own standing army. I mean, God knows, who the fuck wants that, right? Who wants a state ready to go to fucking war if they choose, right? That doesn't. That
oh,
doesn't.
shit.
Somebody's
Um,
playing with my door.
Cameron saying, we didn't win the War of 1812. We didn't lose either. A peace treaty was signed. No territory changes were made. How would someone define winning? By casualty counts? We lost more lives than Great Britain. The loser of the war was the Native Americans, who lost more territory as the Americans expanded, destroyed villages of any who supported Great Britain. The difference is we feel as if we won. I mean, that's not entirely inaccurate. But no, we won.
History is
Yeah,
written.
well-
History is written by
By the
the
victors,
people
right?
who are writing the history. No,
So we decided.
the
by the
history
victors,
doesn't
we
even
decided
have to be
what?
written by the victors anymore. I mean,
No, it is.
you can.
It's actually-
Oh, actually, how about history is written by those who see themselves as the victors? I think we do that a lot. Vietnam often gets painted as a win-win. Hey,
Yeah.
we did good in Vietnam, folks. We were there. We were. Fuck off. Fuck
We did
off.
well at that point. We did win by scoreboard.
Speaking of wins, Boris got himself a win, didn't he? Did he get
He
one
did.
under his belt over
Yes,
there?
and before we talk about that, I need to take a piss real quick. So I will be right back. So
Really, John?
please-
You can't
Yes.
hold it for a show?
Nope.
God. All right, run. Ron says, Ron says that the George Wallace, one of the primary reasons the Guard was nationalized, he used the Alabama Guard to prevent black students from going to class after being ordered by the federal government, which is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about as to why why he does not. The federal government will not want any state to have their own National Guard anymore at this point. But live history is being written by the lamestream media, and that is true. But the real question or the real thought behind that for me is that while lamestream media may be writing history as they go, there's so many people that know that they can't believe anything they read on the internet, yet they believe everything that they read on the internet. Cameron, John's pissing me off. Why is John pissing you off, Cameron? You don't need to be pissed off. It's okay. He John's always on the side of the conqueror. Brandon, good catch, Ron. That was the break of states holding power directly over them. So welcome back, John. And we were just talking about Ron Helton bringing up George Wallace, who was basically the straw that broke the camel's back as far as state having its own guard when he used
and so that was
state
obviously
guard.
an inappropriate use of National
Sure.
Guard.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that, again goes to my point that, when you talk about partisan politics and you talk about this fuck you culture we live in now. Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I could just, I can't imagine exactly what it might be, but I could see states going, fuck you, federal government. Fuck you, federal government.
Well, that's the point of them. Yeah, it's the point of using a National Guard or a militia.
Yeah,
whatever.
but there's a perfect example of misusing it, and people have to live through the fuck yous that get said too.
Yeah.
Ron
I like
Hill's,
that Cameron said John's pissing me off.
yeah,
Good.
he said
Glad
you're
I'm
pissing
doing
him
my
off.
job.
Cameron says I didn't get out because he went to piss. Right, I get it. I did. Yeah, Yeah.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I didn't get
Yeah.
it either. Sorry, Cameron. I
Yeah,
think that's on
it's
you
lame.
more than it is on
There's
us.
lame stream, not media. But
Yeah,
ooh, lame stream. Ha ha ha. There's another piss pun. Uh,
that's a shit pun.
no,
It
lame
just
stream. If your shit is a
lame stream.
stream, you need. Oh,
Oh,
come on.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, some people call it like the lame stream media. It's like, oh, dude, gross.
Ed says he has
What a bad
homemade
pun.
fried cheese curds. You know, none of that. That just doesn't. You know, you have to put the word curd in there. You know, that's the problem with those things. I would probably like them if you just said it's homemade fried cheese, because it's just cheese. I'm just saying. And yes, I understand it's a curd, but when you throw curd in, I just think cottage cheese and turned milk and you know. So anyway, but yeah, I hope you're enjoying those. Uh,
I don't.
Ron says
I,
Texas
I
has.
hope they're horrible.
Ron says Texas has their own state guard, but it is not that big nor heavily equipped. That is true. Texas does. What is it? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it just called? Is it Texas National? What is it that
Texas
they're
State
called?
Guard.
Something. But I know that they have. But they're kind of. I think they're kind of like the equivalent of the Disney police here. You know, if once they're off Disney grounds, they think they're hot shit, but they don't. They can't really do anything.
Right.
Ed
I mean,
says,
it's hard to have respect for a man who has, a badge shaped like a mouse, or like a mouse
right,
head.
right.
Yeah.
There's something there,
Yeah.
something cuckable there. But anyway, so Boris wins in Great Britain. I don't even,
Yes.
because you know how I am.
Yeah.
I'm more hands off about global than I've ever been before these days. I can't stand that we have our heads still so far up Britain's ass that we give a shit about this stuff, unless it's just directly impacting trade, and then then we'll address the
Yeah.
trade portion.
Which it will, though. It will
but
affect our trade. With
It will, and and we'll deal with that when it comes down to trade talks. But outside of that, I don't give a fuck. If it's not starting a war, I want as little to do with fucking Britain right now, because their culture, their culture is bleeding over with their, our political ins and outs, where we're watching all of that. All their cultural bullshit is spilling over, and I don't want that. I don't like
their
that one
cultural-
bit.
Their cultural bullshit is the same as our cultural bullshit.
No,
It's
theirs
all the
is
same
worse.
rhetoric.
Right.
No, they're just further. They're further down the line.
Right. So I
That's
want to
what it
cut off.
is.
I want to cut off all conversation so that we can maybe start to quiet it down here.
Right, but so look at the implications, right? With the conservative win over there in the UK, they're going to be able to get. They have they have what's necessary to get Brexit done finally.
Right.
After the last fucking 4 years,
Okay.
they finally have the ability to do that.
Awesome.
Which means, and they also have the ability to do things like, if they wanted to, which I'm not sure they're going to, pass free speech laws, try and repeal some of the hate speech laws, try and unfuck their country is what I should say. Screw trying to fix it at this point, just trying to unfuck it at least.
Okay.
And so if they can do that and the overall culture war of the entire world is a huge win, even over here. That also, because our politics are so intertwined, not necessarily by politicians, but by culture, and that the huge win over there shows that people are sick of the bullshit from the left in general. And we saw that same thing here with Trump. Trump getting elected, it can be said, and has been, that is what paved the way for Boris to be elected over there. He's been compared to Trump. He's been called the UK Trump, or the British Trump. So when it comes to culture war stuff, they affect each other. We have a symbiotic relationship when it comes to culture. So both
we
of our
don't
cultures
have
affect
to.
each other. Yeah, but we do, though. That's the thing. We do.
Right. I would rather we mute it.
Right. Okay, that's fine.
Because it didn't,
But we
Trump
don't-
being elected here hasn't helped our culture wars for shit. In fact, in some ways, I think it's made it worse.
See, I don't think it has. I think it has actually helped quite a bit. It's first of all, it's forced the left to show their hand, to show, or to overplay their hand even, and become more and more ridiculous to where less people are supporting them than ever before.
Okay, so what's that got to do with, you know, people still getting more and more amped up and triggered over stupid shit and causing
Yeah,
problems over stupid shit outside of Washington?
right. Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
the
So
Me
those
Too
people,
movement isn't gone. I mean, it may
right,
not be as
but
loud as it was, but it's not gone.
right. No, the cancel culture is really what Me Too has turned into cancel culture.
Okay.
Which is obviously I find reprehensible. Um, but and that's the thing is more and more people are not caring about like being called canceled. You know what I mean? Like that happened with Louis C.K. He got canceled, and he just started doing stand up, and the left was like, "What the fuck? No, you're canceled. You don't understand. You can't do that." And he's just like, "Well, I'm doing it." You know, um, and that's kind of the aspects that I'm talking about. Is just the more and more that you see them overplay their hand, the more people are going to be sick of that shit. The more people are going to denounce it. The more people are going to step away from it and are going to adjust our culture back to some sort of normalcy. But it has to. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
You 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 understand though that what happens somewhere else in the world, if we take cues from that, the problem with America is we always want to take it to the next level. We
Well,
will
no,
do you one better in your egregious fuck up in your culture. We'll go better than that. We'll take it even further.
I don't know how true that is. But no, they're taking cues from us though. That's the thing, which is what we want. They're taking cues from us.
We hope. And why do
Well,
we want
yeah.
that? Why do we give a fuck? Why can't we just tune it out? Why can't we not? Why can't we focus on our own bullshit here in our country? Again, shut the fucking window so we don't hear the outside noise. Keep the door open for trade, but shut the fucking windows and mute a lot of this fucking noise so
Well,
that
you're
we.
welcome to, but that's not going to happen for the vast majority of our population.
I mean, this idea that we need to be involved in it, that we need to have our heads up the ass of the world in all of these things, you
I'm not
know,
sure what you mean by need to be involved. I wasn't involved at all in the elections of the UK. In fact, no one in America was necessarily involved. Right? You can support someone. You can say, "Hey, I think this would be a good idea if you guys did this," but that's it. And we've had this conversation before, where we're not intervening in anything. We're not doing like that. Just saying, "Hey, good for you. You did the right thing." That's it. I don't understand why that's an issue. That's not something we're not affecting anything on that side other than maybe changing some minds. But even that, there's plenty of people over there who are
as
doing that.
far as the politics are concerned, if we want to support them in, if we want to applaud them for that, great, great.
Yeah, that's all I'm talking about. Yeah.
But even that opens the door for all the. I mean, it can go back to the very, one of the very basest things, all this bullshit that we do in this country when one of those fuckers gets married. I mean, look at
Oh,
us.
I don't give a fuck about the
But
royal. I
that's
don't
what
care.
but that's you do okay. See, that's
Well,
just
yeah, yeah, but okay. Most people
yeah.
don't care. The
That
media
doesn't.
cares, and they'll stream it or whatever. But
What are you talking
I mean,
about?
that's
People
it.
all over this country were having viewing parties for that fucking wedding. Are you kidding?
Okay, yeah, I think
And
that's cringy.
they were huh?
I think that's cringy. Yeah,
But
it's
what I'm saying is you can't you sit there and say just because you don't care, most people didn't care.
no, no,
That's
no.
you
That's not what I'm
can't
saying.
the worldview is not the same as yours.
That's not what I'm
A
saying.
lot of people in this country had their heads up that royal ass every time they
Yeah,
get married,
that's fine. Yeah, a
and
lot of people like
that's
celebrities. That's the thing. It's a celebrity thing. It has nothing to do with them
yeah,
being
we don't.
British.
But how many of their celebrities do we really fawn over outside of royal weddings? We how
There's quite a few.
how many really? How many people
Yeah,
sit around and fawn over John Cleese? You know,
a lot of people like
like
John
we do
Cleese.
our own celebrities. Nobody treats their celebrities quite like we do ours, but their royalty,
J.K. Rowling,
fuck.
really? J.K. Rowling. All the kids who played the main
J.K.
core of Harry
Rowling
Potter.
is the butt of so much meme, it's not even funny.
Yeah, but she had a lot of support. I enjoyed her
She
books
was an
and the
author.
movies.
She's an author, yeah.
Yeah, she's a
Okay.
celebrity though. She is also a celebrity.
Yes, there's a difference. She's not a front-facing celebrity like celebrities are. I don't think you could throw
Okay,
authors
okay,
into that group when you're
okay.
talking about
Emma Watson.
Emma
Emma
Watson.
Watson. Yeah, she got to have a
She had
speech in
she.
front of the UN
Wait, I thought that
about
was Greta
feminism.
Thunberg.
Well, she did too. But yeah, Emma Watson.
Okay, let's not conflate the UN with the United States. Now, yes, people
No,
fawn
I
over
know,
her,
but also Emma Watson
here in
was
this country, most
huge.
of that fawning is
Daniel
because she's
Radcliffe as
hot.
well.
She was hot. Daniel
Well, yeah.
Radcliffe had 15 minutes. He's nothing now.
No,
But
he's been in
he
several
that
movies since.
he got naked on Broadway, and so people he really
Yeah.
blew the moral view of a lot of people. Fucking
Yeah.
Harry Potter's naked. Oh my god.
Right. But my point being, though, that yes, obviously we pay way more attention to U.S. celebrities, and so does the rest of the world.
Right,
But
and we
that doesn't mean
fawn,
that there aren't any celebrities over in
but
England
we
that
don't
we.
fawn over any celebrities there like we do the royal family. When they're getting,
Okay.
I mean, it's a fucking event in this country
Yeah,
when their
Adele.
royal
That's
family
another good
is
point.
getting married.
It's
You
another
know,
good point. Adele.
sure,
Yeah.
yes, I get it. You're right. There are celebrities that we like here. I'm just saying
Adele was
we
huge.
don't fawn over anybody like we do
Kate
this.
Moss, Gordon Ramsay. Yeah. See, Brandon's got. I don't know the celebrities, but apparently
Mhm.
Brandon does.
Mhm.
So.
But
Yeah.
how many nationwide uproars does one of their new albums cause versus a royal fucking wedding? Right?
A lot.
I
A
mean,
lot.
all we
So
can do
there-
is talk about it in the media, and all people do is talk about it in the coffee shops. That the royal wedding, and the royal weddings, and the royal wedding. Fuck it, they're over there. We fucking
Yeah.
fought and lost a lot of people to not have to put up with their bullshit and listen to their fucking accent, and and them standing around acting like they're better than you, even when they're just a chimney sweep, whatever the fuck it is. We don't need it. We're better
Yes,
than that.
listen.
We're above that.
I understand that. I really don't care about any of that stuff, and I would encourage other people to care, but I'm also not the arbiter of what people care about. So I still don't know what point you're making, other than
Then
I
I
don't know,
just
like stop
it's
paying
just
attention.
it's like everybody's all it's sad to me that this is we're so expectatious of the outcome of this election to have an impact on our country, have an eventual impact on
Yes.
our country, and that
Right, just
that
culturally,
I don't like that.
mostly culturally, mostly
That does-
culturally, a little economically, just because
Yeah,
the EU looks like it's
econ-
going to be spiteful and not let them trade with them. So that means that we become the
we
big
we
trade
just get stronger trade partner, right? I get
which is
that.
awesome. Yeah,
Right.
that's going to be really good for us and them.
But we don't need to trade culture. But and it's
Well, we
not
have-
just
we have-
them; it's
We have
everybody.
practically the same culture, though, at this
Hey,
point.
you know what? Here's this: they're fucking dicks because they're not in Hong Kong right now doing what they said they were going to do. So fuck
When did
them.
they say they were going to do that?
Remember, they were going to the part of them when they left was a protection. Basically, they offered protection to Hong Kong during the time of transition before China took them back in. They've just kind of been hands off during the entire fucking protests.
Well,
and
yeah,
not
because
really-
they transferred
but
Hong Kong
but
to China.
part of what they said when they were leaving is, "We've got your back. If you need anything, we'll be there for you." And we do. I agree, Ron. We do have our own pomp and circumstance here, but that's us. That we're allowed to do that. That's us within our borders, our country, our culture. I don't. It's not just England. Don't get me wrong. I don't give a fuck about any of those people over there, unless they're doing something shitty that's going to hurt or affect America in a negative way. Outside of that,
You mean like
Treat-
having a negative culture that will impact
right?
us because
When
we're
we
so
can,
globally intact,
right? If
so
we would
globally
just,
attached to each other?
if we can, again, we need to find a way to be economically attached to countries and not be involved in any of their political or cultural bullshit. Isolation.
Right. I mean, well, listen, I sympathize with that. It's just that that's not the way that it is. So there's no reason not to celebrate that victory, is what I'm saying.
It would be easier to accomplish that than getting rid of a standing military. I'll tell you that.
Probably.
So maybe that should be our job, is to shut everybody the fuck out. How do we do that? How can we accomplish that? How do we as a culture, as a country, get to the same point where we don't want to interact with the rest of the world unless it's on an economic level? What is it going to take to get us to that point? We were very much that way
Yeah.
in World War II. I want that back.
That's not a rhetorical question, right? You want me to answer that?
If you can, do you know? Can you think of a way we
Yes.
could get there? Go ahead.
Yes. Culture.
But that means we have to rely on other cultures to impact our culture, as you said,
No,
because we're symbiotic.
Right, which symbiotic means that we're both affecting each other, not one is just affecting the other. That would be parasitic.
But when do we
What I'm
get to a
saying
point
is-
of isolationism?
Once our culture has developed enough to where most people want that, because even if that would be, let's say hypothetically, that would be the best. I don't know if it would be. Who knows? But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that it is what's best. You still have to convince people that that's what's for the best. Well, meanwhile, there's gonna be another faction that's gonna be convincing other people that it's not, and it's actually the opposite.
Sure.
We should just open our borders and let anyone come in, right? So you just have to fight that somehow.
Here is the irony to what you're saying. To get to a point where we can shut the rest of the world out, we need to intertwine our culture, let cultures be impacted, like you're talking about the UK having an impact on us. But once we get to that point where we could shut everybody out, that means the cultures that are impacting us have gotten on an even keel to where we don't need to shut them out anymore. You know what I mean? I mean, if the cultures have managed to get to an even keel so that we all balance out, well, then we don't need to shut everybody out again because we're all just normal. So you're saying we got to ride this fucking wave out together and just suffer through the manic, crazy bullshit that the rest of the world can instill in the American population because we can't do enough ourselves.
Well, see, that's the thing, is you're still operating under the premise that it's just other cultures impacting ours. We're impacting their culture and they're impacting our culture at the same time.
Yes, to a certain extent.
No, it's at the same time. Things like, especially social media, it doesn't matter where you come from, unless with a few outliers like China, places that have heavy restrictions. Other than that, anyone can join up, anyone can put their opinion out, which means that everyone is affecting everyone else.
Yeah, I get it. And that's why I say that's the irony to getting to a point of being isolationist is to, I think that we need to rely on our own culture to sort itself out, not with influences from other culture. I don't need our culture to see. I don't need our culture to see the UK getting tired of their bullshit and say, "Oh, well, maybe we should be getting tired of our bullshit." I need us to look at ourselves and go, "Jesus Christ, why aren't we tired of this bullshit?"
Right. So
that's not
happened,
self-realization,
But look at the timeline of what happened over there, right? They had Theresa May. They had a referendum to say we're going to leave the EU. Now she went kicking and screaming and dragged that out as long as she possibly could until she got fucking ousted, right? Then what happened? Conservatives won, and they put Boris Johnson as the prime minister. Right? That's the complete opposite. I mean, no, I guess she was a conservative technically. She was part of the Conservative Party. But they were sick of the bullshit. They saw what Trump that we
I understand. I understand. You've already explained that.
Right, okay, but you've made the same argument over and over again when I've already explained why it's necessary for the two countries to have to celebrate one another's victories, just because it's affecting the culture at large in the West, at the very least.
Well, much like our victory in 2016, maybe it's too early to be applauding an unknown victory. I mean, let's. But when it's all said and done, it's fuck them. I don't. I don't need to. I don't even need world leaders calling our fucking president, going, "Congratulations." Yeah, call him and tell him what you want to trade. I mean, the rest of the time,
Well, if you want to diplomatic, diplomatic niceties and courtesies dictate that you would
yeah, sure.
congratulate. It shows that you acknowledge that they are the leader, and so I'm going to come to you for trade options or whatever the hell else.
Yeah, I'm
of
so fucking pissed off at the shit that goes on in Britain, and because I think it's insane looking at how far past where we are they've gone, to where they've gotten into a much more fascist. They seem to almost be regressing from a government standpoint, but not back to a full monarchy so much as they're going back towards a very fascist mindset. It seems. Well, because when you talk about kings and everything, there have been kings and monarchs in Britain that have been very fascist. There have been times when Britain was very fascist in its control. Now those were under monarchies, but I don't think that there's this one. There's not a monarch in charge. There's Parliament. There's the Prime Minister.
Right.
There's a group of people overall, but. Up to this point, up until the election, they've been very fascist in the way that they're doing things, the way they're handling things. I'm
not sure. I'm not sure you understand the difference between a monarchy and fascism.
Fascism is an ideology, whereas a monarchy is a governmental regime. It's a type of rule. And I get that, but monarchies can be fascist or not fascist, right? And there have been points and times in England's history where some regimes have been more fascist in their ideology than others.
Well, they've been more authoritarian, sure, but they've not been.
Well,
they've not been fascist. Fascism is specifically deifying the state, whereas yes, the king is the state, but it's about the king. Right, so for king and country, for that sort of thing.
Well, I guess I'm conflating fascism with stepping on rights, and I guess you're right. Well, that's more authoritarian, but
authoritarian in general. Totalitarian in general is
maybe totalitarian is a better word.
I think that's what you're trying to get.
Maybe totalitarian is a better word than fascism. It's. But I can't abide by the way they're acting over there, because I don't want our government, right? I don't want our government looking at things that they're doing over there and then listening to the vocal minority here and getting it in their head, to where people like Beto O'Rourke will stand on a national fucking stage and say, "Yeah, we're going to come and take your guns away." That's the kind of. I don't want those things interrelating either. That's why I want to. I don't want to deal with other people's politics, because how people run their countries. I don't want us taking playbooks from them. Oh, because something may work out. Watch something work out 6 months, a year in the short term, and then we get all gung-ho and knee-jerk reaction and do something similar, and then all of a sudden shit hits the fan. It's...
I mean, our biggest advantage over them, and the reason why we're not quite as far along as they are, is we have a constitution. We have a written constitution.
Well, don't they have...
They have an implied constitution. Based on precedent. Now they do have the Magna Carta.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, which was what was that, like 1045, 1080, something like that, a long fucking time ago. But it kind of sets some of the rights. It set like the foundation for our Constitution, which it was based off of the Magna Carta. But yeah, their rule of law is basically from precedent. saying like this is how it's always been, so we're just going to kind of keep it that way, unless we feel like we're not going to. So there's nothing really stopping them from changing it. It's just tradition has kept it there for as long as it has been.
I know in articles out of from the BBC, I know I've seen reference to a constitution. Again, like I said, I don't know that it's how hard written in stone that constitution is, or
They have
how
an
it's
unwritten constitution.
But
Yeah,
I've never and I've never expected that they have full freedom of speech over there, that kind of thing.
they don't. Not even close.
But they
Not even
are.
close.
But they've well, and I get that, that. But where they've gone takes it to an even deeper level. I mean, they are borderline China when it comes to censorship now, to where I have to stop and say, okay, why is it okay for you to do this, but you want to call out Xi Jinping for doing something similar in his country? You don't get to wave the naughty stick. You don't get to wave the fucking naughty stick,
Yeah.
England. You don't get away with that. Oh, but we're trying to get out of. We're trying to Brexit. We're trying to Brexit. No, that's not your victim card. That's not your look at me, poor me.
Yeah.
Fuck you. You're stepping on your people even harder than you ever have before, especially at a time where you're trying to show independence.
Yeah.
I mean, they're literally fighting for independence right now, in a sense, and yet they want to just step on the individual independence or the individual rights of their people, whether implied or not. It's sad.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, fuck you, England. You want me to get involved in world politics and you want me to pay attention and focus? Well, that's what I focus on. You guys are being kind of shitty right now. So I don't want to play with you. I don't want to give you kudos. I don't want to pat you on the head and tell you, hey, it's a great thing that you got this guy elected, so you feel like anything you've been doing is okay up to this point. Well, it's not. Fuck you.
Well, no. That's the thing is, it wasn't like Boris Johnson who did that stuff, right? So
No, I know. I get
pat
it.
someone on the back for going the right direction.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Maybe.
If
I'm guessing a lot of people fought tooth and nail to keep that son of a bitch out, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Yes. So I'm not going to applaud them for making the great decision when it was probably, I believe, it wasn't like a landslide victory, was it? Or was it?
Last night's was, yeah. It was pretty heavy. I forget what the actual, I think it was 42%. Oh, no, I guess it wasn't that much. It was probably 4%. Pretty sure. There was like 42% for conservative, 38% for Labor.
I do know they have one of their largest voter turnouts.
Yeah, which is good for them.
Which, then makes 4% a more narrow margin, if I'm
See,
not
I agree with,
mistaken. Is that how the math works on that?
Do what? I was reading the chat.
I was going to say, if more voters turned out, doesn't it make the 4% margin a little more narrow than it normally would be? More people voting makes 4% a more, not a more narrow margin, but 4% more impactful, a closer margin.
More impactful, yeah.
A closer margin.
Well, no, because there's more people voting.
Right.
So that would mean I'm trying to work this out. I'm not actually sure.
Yeah, that's how I'm trying to figure out how the math works. Because my thought is, if more people vote, that means 4% is a lot more of a narrow victory than 4%. If 1,000 people vote and it's a 4% margin.
Well, I think if more people vote, that leaves a larger margin, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm stupid. If Midget B's out there, let us know.
Right.
He's a math guy.
Right. It's
4%.
Yeah.
I like what Sonic KFC Bacon over here said. Brexit means Brexit, Scotland forever. 100%. I also support Scotland's independence, although I know that they plan on joining the EU again as soon as they leave, which is very unfortunate. I had the same criticism of Ireland. They fought for independence for 800 years and then caved up their sovereignty to the EU immediately. It's fucking ridiculous. But
why did they?
I respect the because they wanted to be part of the economic union.
So it was for economic reasons.
Yeah, the EU was supposed to be an economic union of Europe, but then it turned into its own empire.
Well, see,
So,
maybe that's the mistake that they made. They called it
well,
because
yeah,
they instead of referring it as the EU, they just referred to it as the EU. And I know that I'm not trying to say that as a joke, but if it had been focused on as a European Economic Union or Economic European
hmm
Union, and always talked about that way from a naming perspective,
yeah. So
is
that's
it
what I thought.
possible that would have been more the carry of what it was?
I'm sorry. What were you saying? I was reading the
I
chat.
said, is it possible if they had done that, that it would have helped keep it established as an economic
Oh yeah,
union versus what it's turned into?
yeah. I mean, if they hadn't created a legislative body, then it would have been fine. But they created a legislative body.
Right. And if it had been an economic European union, branded as that and labeled as that, they would have only had to appoint an administrative body.
Right, which is completely different.
Correct.
Um, if more people vote than 4% represents a larger number of people, that's what I thought. Yeah. So that means that it's a bigger margin if that 4% margin is
Yeah,
bigger.
I guess. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. It's when I try and look at the numbers in my head, it's like, do I look at it as a funnel or a pyramid? Funnel, pyramid, funnel, pyramid. um, uh, Ron says, if more people vote, yeah, EU
Yeah.
allows free travel between member countries, no visas. Right, and that's a
Right,
big
which
one.
is
But
different. Which I mean, I would even be fine with free travel. Freely being able to live in another country, I think should be different. But I liked the idea of being able to travel all around Europe if you wanted to with one passport. That's pretty sweet. But just being able to say, okay, well, I'm going to go move to this other country, someone to live there has had terrible effects in other countries' economies, especially Eastern Europe. It's been terrible for their economies because all those people move to like the UK or France, Poland, any number of Spain, any number of Western Germany, especially to those countries where there's more opportunity, where they're going to make more money, leaving no one skilled behind in Eastern Europe. The whole brain drain effect, where there's no one to go back to Eastern Europe and make those countries wealthy. Instead, they're just making the Western European countries more wealthy, and they're making themselves more wealthy, which is good. But at the same time, Eastern Europe just falls apart.
uh huh.
So that's what I'm saying is like that whole being able to live in whatever country you want that's in the European Union is very bad for them. That's my point.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, it's
So,
just like
so the
being.
travel thing is cool if you want to go on vacation or
Well, that's the
holiday.
same. That's the same thing here in the United States.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to be walking into when you move into a new state. You got to look and go, okay, is this going to be a good state for me?
Well,
Is this going to
yeah,
be a
yeah.
fit for me? But yeah, I mean, over there, they've got all that, and when it's all said and done, again, you look at these countries and the little things that they're doing. They're moving and playing and boards on a pieces on a board, and it's like, yeah, but these are people making decisions. These are countries making decisions, and if they don't have the will of the people making the decision, and that's the way it's been, fuck 'em. But if the people want to have a voice, make the voice happen. That's what they're doing in Hong Kong, right?
Yeah,
That's kind of what
absolutely.
Brexit is an example of. Is the people are making their voices heard that they don't want to be part of the European Union anymore.
Mhm.
So it's like, okay, when I look at Scotland, I look at Ireland, fucking Ireland, man, it's so odd to me that entire country can't just come together and be like, fuck Europe altogether, or fuck England, fuck Europe, fuck England,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I mean,
Ireland
it's the
is.
same. It's the same problems that we're having. The same problems that the UK is having. It's the culture. It's the idea that those above you should take care of you, as opposed to you taking care of yourself.
Well,
And obviously, people disagree in those countries as well. That's why everyone's so divided right now. It's because there is no real unity within countries for
Well,
the most part.
is it possible? Is it possible that a lot of fear from World War II still lives in Europe to this day, to where when you think about, you know, leaving the umbrella of your mother country, for instance, with Ireland, with Scotland, or leaving the umbrella of the EU, or you know, having the presence of the EU, not even looking at countries like Russia, China, these countries that are potentially real adversaries.
Yeah,
Is there a lot of that old World War II fear still inbred, in
absolutely,
that
absolutely.
long-standing culture?
Yeah, absolutely. Which is funny because Germany did end up taking over Europe again by using the EU. So they just didn't use violence this time.
Right?
They
It's
convinced everyone
it's high.
instead.
It's another highly ironic situation. Ron Helton says, but some of the problems that have arose is that you have to get permission to sell certain products by the EU Council, and fishing
Yeah,
off the shores of all countries is
right.
controlled by the
And
EU.
that's a huge problem there, is because you have French and Dutch fishing ships off the coast of like Ireland, say. Just because I know that's actually a real example. So
Fishing their
they're
waters.
fishing in Irish waters, yeah, which means that there's less for the Irish to fish there. Same thing with their beef. They get their beef from Peru, I think, when they have plenty of cattle in Ireland, but they are forced to import beef because of the EU trade agreements. So, what I'm saying is like they're actually a net contributor at this point. Ireland is. They give more to the EU than they receive, so they're a net contributor. It's really bad for them. The EU is only good for your country if you are a net benefactor, meaning that you're getting more than you're giving. And the only way that that can happen is if you have net contributors. So I mean, I don't know. It's really bad for the actually wealthy countries. It's pretty much how socialism works. Is that those who have give and those who don't get, and that's it. But then there also take the immigration problem is another massive problem that we can get into another time. But yeah, the EU itself is just completely fucked. I mean, Germany is probably the worst of all of them, even though it's the number one contributor to the EU. It is really bad right now over
Yeah.
there.
But it's really bad over here too, so we need to shut the fucking doors and clean our room. We
Right,
need
but
to
we also have
clean
to
our
learn.
room.
I agree, but we also have to learn from what's going on over there and not do that ourselves.
I can promise you this, John.
Hmm.
If you remember back to when you were a child, possibly you can understand this. If you have to clean your room, if you close the door, you're less likely to be distracted by anything outside of the room.
Oh, outside of the room, yeah.
Right.
But I would usually find a toy that I hadn't seen in months and
Sure.
be like, "Oh,
What
I
you
want
do?
to play with this for a little
Sure.
while,"
Sure. You may do
instead of
that while
cleaning.
you're in there cleaning the room up, but you still have a deadline. Like you need to get the room cleaned, right? Like you got
Yeah.
to get the thing cleaned, but you
It would
close
usually
the
take my mom
door.
coming in and being like, "What are you doing?
Right,
Stop
you
playing."
close the door, you crank up the music, and you act like you're doing stuff in there. You may be playing with toys for a while, but still, no distractions from the outside stopping you. Yeah, we can shut the doors, and we might get distracted here with our own bullshit, but it'll be our own bullshit we'll be distracted by, and
Yeah.
we'll eventually still get our room cleaned. And we don't have to, nothing. We won't hear cartoons going in the living room and be like, oh, I'm going to go on out there and watch those cartoons. Fuck cleaning this room. I'm going to go watch them cartoons. Oh, oh, is that mom cooking it? I hear her doing shit in the kitchen. I'm going to go see what she's doing. Oh, fuck cleaning my room. I'm going to go see what's going on. I'm just saying, close the
Yeah.
fucking door.
I understand.
It's simple.
Yeah.
And if
I
anybody
understand what you're
can't,
saying.
if people that can't get behind that, those are the people I'm just like, why? Why? Why do you want to open our doors, open our borders, open our lives to everything outside of our lives?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's really
Well, the
crazy.
funny thing is, that's the open borders thing is actually the thing that I disagree with most when it comes to the Libertarian Party, is because they're pro open borders. And
I can't understand that
I,
from the libertarians.
so the argument is that the right of movement is inherent to man. So by closing off your borders, you're violating the non-aggression principle because it takes aggression to stop people from coming into the country. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
and
think it's
that and
bullshit.
that
I
would
think
be
it's bullshit.
fine. That would be fine if the libertarians, even for one moment, had any inkling of hope that they could have a global libertarian order.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly like communism, right? It requires everyone to become that at once,
Right.
like at the same
Everybody's got to be
time.
on board with that, right? Nah, come on. Fuck you. Fuck that
Yeah.
idea. I mean, it's insane to me that I don't love any group that thinks that anymore. I've just
See, I
reached
have
that
checked
point.
out. Stephen told me to check out the Mises Caucus, and I have, and they're pretty awesome. Uh, they agree mostly with what I want, and yeah, they're actually working to try and claim the Libertarian Party. So they're like working within it to try and take it over and make it viable. So good luck to them.
Yeah. Well, I will say that when it comes to all this Brexit stuff, or it comes to any of these things, these shits that are going on in the world, they don't need is they don't need a visit from Donald Trump to come in and just talk and visit and about how things are going and give his input and his counsel and his advice. Um, you know, we need him here. We need him here, focused on us.
Yeah.
Not getting in their bullshit. Especially not going over and fucking playing games with Angela Merkel, fucking flirting with her for I don't know how often.
Well, that's Germany. She's a chancellor of Germany.
Well, sure, but she was. I mean, she bleeds EU blood.
Oh yeah.
That's what
Oh
I'm
yeah.
talking about, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
and he's just.
She is the EU. In
I
fact,
I
she's Empress Palpatine.
I'm gonna put it
She
out there.
is the EU.
Here's
Yeah.
my latest conspiracy theory, and we can end on this note. You don't even have to give an opinion, John, but I'm gonna say it.
All right.
I think he tapped that ass. All right, folks.
I hope not, for his sake.
I'm just going to tell everyone out there right now, if you like what you're hearing, hit the like button. If you haven't hit the like button, you're a horrible person. You should go to the
That's right.
EU or to England. Either one. Take your pick. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, you're even doubly damned. Then I say you should go to Canada. Yeah, they should go to Canada. John, do we have anything coming up besides a happy-go-lucky attitude?
Well, we don't currently.
Well, then
Unless
that's
you wanted
it.
to do, unless you wanted to do some kind of
No,
New Year's Eve
No.
thing. No.
no, not unless we can get Freedom Scoop guys on board. Maybe we'll do something. Yeah, people want to do stuff on New Year's with their loved ones, so. I don't know that I want to be away from my wife when my ball drops.
Yeah,
So,
fair enough. All right.
Wait, the ball drops. Gotcha.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They've dropped a long time ago. Anyway, so outside of that, John, they can find us if they look for
Yes.
us. How far do they have to
can.
look?
Just scrolling down in the description as you're going down to like and subscribe on this. If you just go a little bit further, we've got our Twitter, which is at the Gen Gap P. We've got the link to our Discord server, which is a hell of a lot of fun. Then we've got the link to freedomscoop.com. We can go and watch us and other people that we like, such as Jay Edgar, who's in the chat there. He's also over there.
Freedom Scoop.
You can also buy our merch, which is over there. We got T-shirts and a mug, so you can do that. Because we also have, if you go even further in our description, we have a promo code that will get you 15% off for our products. So yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Gin Gap.
Yep. Make sure you get that for yourself, and we would appreciate that. And I think that's about it.
That's about it, John? You can't think of anything else?
Nope.
Dude, Christmas is coming.
Nah, whatever. Bah, humbug.
You're going to give me the same fucking thing you got me last year, aren't you?
That's right.
God damn it.
Fuck all.
You didn't even get me the right size. All right, we're going to get the hell out of here. So, folks, if you want to catch us again, look for us on Monday nights at 9 o'clock. We'll be doing our next episode of Shooting the Shit.
Yes.
And then we're also going to be back again next Friday. The same, I can't say bat time, bat channel, can I? Is that copyrighted? Will we get thrown?
I don't know.
Anyway, we'll be back at 8:30 next Friday as well, and it won't be a Friday the 13th, so maybe John will be a little less nasty.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the way you look. I'm just,
Yeah.
because I love you. I want to get that goddamn beard off. And I am going to put this out there too, John. If during this last charity stream, if we kept our goal the way we, what we had it last time at $1,000, somebody would have pumped the 100. Somebody
I
would
know
have
someone
pumped
would
that
have,
last
yeah.
100, and you would.
I happen
be
to
there.
know that Steven said if it got close enough, then he would do up to 200. So I know he would have done the 100 to bring it over that mark. So we were close.
All right, we're going to get the hell out of here. John, thanks for stopping by. Folks, thanks for all your wonderful chat and your discussions. We'll see you in Discord if you want to carry on. And if not, have yourselves a good night and stay less than safe out there or stay fully safe. Your choice. I don't think it's
Up to you.
safe anywhere. It's just not safe anywhere. John, have yourself a good night. Oh, he's going to pump my 100. God, Ed, I love it when he talks nasty. And on that note,
Yeah,
night.